What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 161 of Ghosts in the Night, Huntings a paranormal and true crime podcast. I am Phil, and as always, the man sitting next to me is whom? Who are you?
Soon to be a lord in Scotland is
Yes.
who the fuck I am.
Yes.
You don't need to know the rest.
We are so highbrow. We play the fucking intro on the phone from the phone now. We are regressing. How is that fucking possible?
Lord Travis, the sheriff of Fuckingham.
Yes, tonight in episode 161, the live stream on YouTube. So catch us on YouTube.
161.
We are diving deep into.
Literally, how many pages do you have? 2?
I have 3.
We're diving as deep as two fucking morons from Ohio can dive into something like this.
But I have a lot of opinions on this. And I think this topic of this guy poses a very important question because it's a complex. The psyche, the things that are going on is very, 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 very complex.
Yeah, and then there's complexities added onto that, in my personal humble opinion.
Right. But that is Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman. He is probably the most notorious, or at least well known.
It's like if Monica Lewinsky was a cuckold.
But he is
Kuklinski.
Yes, he is the most well-known contract hitman of all time. Of course, that is kind of the MO of a contract hitman. You don't know who they are.
Right.
He's just either really shitty and got caught, but that's a story we'll get into.
Right. The only people who know who John Wick is people who also only wear black.
But he basically did a lot of mob hits, just not mob. He was not a mobster. He was
according to him, he broke 100 bodies when he was still a young man,
yes.
as he said.
And we will get into all that. But before we get into that, there is some business to take care of. Be sure to share this video, share this live stream, share the podcast with whomever likes paranormal or true crime, or thinks we're incredibly good looking, either or.
I always want to bite this thing.
I'm okay with get your sexual tendencies out of the way.
I don't know. I just always have the urge to bite it and rip it off.
But be sure to share it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and all that happy shit.
Instagram,
and the YouTube channel.
Twitter,
that's very important. But
TikTok, Pornhub.
Yes.
Ghost Hub. Bringing it back.
Yes.
It's been a while since we talked about Ghost Hub.
If you remember, was it last week's episode?
Last week was
I told the story about the plane.
The plane, boss. Yeah.
The plane. And one of our listeners, one of our Patreon listeners commented on it. The comments on YouTube, and he lists. And if you remember in that episode, I asked, there has to be a rational explanation for what I saw. He listed out several things that it could have been.
Really?
And it was a long one.
Did he happen to say anything about putting it? Who?
Rob.
Okay. Did he happen to say anything about putting it in park?
No, he did not.
Or strong headwinds?
No. Not really strong head. Well, yes, with light fraction, but there was no parking brake involved. But he, I appreciate his input, and like I said, there had to be a rational explanation for it. But speaking of Rob, he is our latest Patreon subscriber. Now him and I have come to a understanding, I should say. He is.
Oh my God, you guys, look, it's happening. Phil, you're in a safe place. You can tell us. Go on.
He lives in the UK, and I'm sure he's a happily married man. And I am heterosexual, contrary to popular belief.
But
no, he reached the tier to get a sticker.
Yes.
And he messaged us, I should say, through Patreon, and said, don't worry about the sticker. It's he just loves the show and wanted to contribute as much as.
Oh, you're getting a sticker.
No, he's getting something else.
Oh.
I started thinking, you know what?
Dick pic.
I'm going to let him pick out an episode or pick a topic, and we are going to cover it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
So,
and also a sticker.
He does not want a sticker.
Well, you're getting one because I want stickers. We need stickers.
But so I think I'm going to add that.
I want to figure out the magic you have to do with it. I know it's super easy, but I've never done the scan into computer thing.
I'm going to add that to that sticker or that.
I say we just do both. Fuck it.
Well,
he's like the only Patreon that is at sticker level at this point, isn't he?
I know there's one other.
Well, then we need to get stickers anyway.
Well, we're going to get stickers anyway.
I'm going to be slapping them bitches around like a fucking skater punk in the early 2000s.
He's going to do some research and send us what he gets.
So we don't even have to research it?
Oh, no, we're going to research, but he's going to help out. He just wants to cover all his base. He hasn't told me what it is. He's going to get with us.
So no research. Got it.
So you can take the week off.
Which is kind of what I did this week.
Well, me too. Until
Because
yesterday.
when you threw it out there, I was like, yeah, I've already watched at least 2 documentaries.
So, Rob, we love you. Thank you for supporting the podcast and giving us kind words. We love to hear that.
Let us know in the comments. I need some fucking European terms for buttholes. Tell me one European term for a butthole. You don't know any.
I don't know any.
They have great names. Like what is it? What is it? I think I don't know if it's all over the UK, but I've heard the Stoltman brothers,
Yeah.
and a couple other people refer to like Speedos and like tidy whitey type underwears as budgie smugglers.
That's awesome.
I don't understand the reference. It was amazing. Like instead of dickhead, you can call someone a bell end.
Yes.
Or like instead of fucker, it's like I've heard people just be like, "You fucking plonker."
God love the British. I love the British.
Yeah, I need British butthole terminology.
But
do they fart with different? You think? Does it sound more polite?
Probably.
Does their asshole have like a pinky that it puts up?
Says, excuse me afterward. I don't know.
Oh, my asshole pinky. That's why we have tails. We were all originally British, all Americans. Well, that weren't already here and shit. Well, okay. Original settling Americans were all British. Your tail is, we don't use it. It's the pinky that your butthole puts up when it farts in England.
You heard it here first, folks. That's what we do. We make shit up and tell you guys.
I was put on this planet to answer the hard questions.
What else we got? But Richard the Iceman, Kuklinski. Now, the reason I was watching the show and why this popped into me, I've heard of him before, and I'm not a big true crime guy.
I love true crime.
The only reason we do true crime is because you brought it to my attention. I would not do it. I do not like. It's painful for me to research, listen to podcasts and research true crime. But this I like because it ties in the mob. It ties in contract killing, which is kind of a weird and fascinating topic. I'm a little sick of.
There's not that much about it.
But
there's like him, and there's a little bit. What as far as like just strictly contract killers, the only ones I've ever watched were him and that fucking, what do they call it? I think they call it a monster. He works for like Pablo Escobar and shit.
I don't know that one per se, but
I'll send you the video on YouTube. It's pretty fucking interesting.
What sparked my interest, really interesting, why I want to do this, the Iceman was the beginning. It got the ball rolling it gave the idea, it planted the seed of the greatest pro wrestling character of all time. And you know who that is?
Undertaker?
No.
Well, then you're wrong.
Stone Cold Steve.
Really?
Austin. When he got fired from the WCW, he was stunning Steve Austin.
Yeah.
The Vince from WWE, yes, we're nerding out.
His hairline was receding a little bit.
Oh, he had the long hair.
But it was receding.
Yes. They brought him in as the ringmaster. Now, he knew that was not going to go anywhere. So he, one day at home, sitting there watching television, he came across I believe it was probably the HBO documentaries.
It had to be.
No, it was before that. No, because that was in the 90s, and those HBO documentaries didn't come out till 2003-ish, 2-ish, 1-ish.
Really? Because he died in 2006.
Yeah. But he was watching a documentary on Richard the Iceman.
Oh.
And he said, that motherfucker is just ice cold.
Yeah.
So he went to Vince and said, I want to create this heel, in the way of this, the Iceman type thing. So they came up with a bunch of names like temperature relay, like Frosty McFrost and shit like that. Stupid shit.
I do remember seeing something about this.
Shit like that. And then
I remember hearing the names. I didn't know it was
Kuklinski, Fang McFrost and shit like that.
Fang McFrost.
And he was sitting there.
Sounds like an albino porn star.
And he was, he was at home and he was married to a British lady at the time. The mother of his kids are British. She's British. And he was drinking tea or coffee or something.
Of course.
And she said, drink that before it gets stone cold. And boom, Stone Cold Austin was fucking.
You think when she said that, she said, drink this before it gets stone cold, honey? And he's sitting there, he went, what?
Exactly. But
they still do that.
Oh, I know. He's still one of the top merch sellers, and he hasn't been
How
in
can he
in
not
fucking
be?
10 years.
See, and that's my thing is like, how the fuck did that evolve into what it became?
And it hit.
It
quick.
went from I'm based on the most well-known mafia hitman of all time to I'm the Texas rattlesnake. I had 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers. He said beer, whiskey, vodka, tequila, more whiskey, and more beer.
And I mean, it sparked the Attitude Era, which is by far the greatest era
Yeah, hands
of
down.
wrestling. Today's wrestling blows balls.
The ruthless aggression shit with John Cena was just boring.
Right. I mean, but
it was like a watered down version of the wrestling from when I was a kid.
But the Stone Cold started and DX and Stone Cold started the Attitude Era.
We were talking about that shit the other day.
And
like DX had like millions of kids all around the world unknowingly walking around going, "Suck it."
And you gotta throw the Rock in there. DX,
oh yeah,
Rock and Stone Cold.
I mean, it goes further than that, really. If you really want to talk about wrestling, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys,
but they were still low. They were the
Rey Mysterio.
They were still the second tier. But that's really what propped up. And let's face it, Stone Cold, one of the best entrances of all time. When that glass breaks, shit still pops off.
Yeah, I mean, it's like because it's Stone Cold, Undertaker, Kane. I'm talking about entrances.
DX had a great entrance back when they were a group.
Shawn Michaels even because it's and everybody, all the women are like, "Take my panties," and all the guys are like, "Fuck that dude."
And the New Age Outlaws,
all the entrances in general in the Attitude Era were the best. Even the stupid ones, like the Hurricane had a great one. Gilberg's entrance was fucking awesome.
So I mean but Richard Kuklinski started
after our 5-minute fucking wrestling rant.
The Attitude Era in wrestling.
See, it still blows my mind that that's where he got it from, and then it ended up him because murderer, Coors Light truck spraying down the CEO of WWE in the middle of an arena. And everybody, we're sitting here talking about this in like 25 years ago when Richard Kuklinski was just like sitting in prison watching fucking wrestling on TV with his bunkie. The guy was like, "That's the guy that got his name from you? That shit don't make no sense. He's out there spraying motherfuckers with beer." And Richard Kuklinski's sitting there all creepy how he was because he's never faced straight into the camera. He's just, "I taught him that. I did that to Ray Balzano." Did you find that unnerving?
What?
The way he chewed his gum and shit.
And if
it's like he's stuffing all possible viewable emotion into that.
But if he
would just kind of like, and then
it's not all the time.
No,
it's when he's getting fucking angry. He's getting
or upset about something.
Right. That is when he did it,
which almost never happens, which makes it even more terrifying.
So all right, so now we've got
he was a killer. Good night.
Origin story of Stone Cold Steve Austin, which is topic related. We brought this up, and Gonzo's not even here.
Oh, I talked to Gonzo earlier. He's
leaving us.
No, I think it's a work thing.
That's no excuse. We're more important than work.
No. I mean, I agree.
Okay, Richard Leonard Kuklinski, Cuttenbag.
Monica Kuklinski
was born April 11th, 1935, and died March 5th, 2006 of Kawasaki disease, which I still don't know what the fuck.
What?
Kawasaki disease. Google that shit.
Go on. I got this. I should know it. It's clearly of my people.
He has said himself he killed over 200 people.
Well, that number, nobody knows the exact number, and that number evolved over the course of him filming with HBO.
Right.
Because the first time he said, 100. I've definitely killed more than 100 people.
Right.
And then it was, wasn't it the one, because he did the Iceman tapes, both of those, and then he did the one with the psychiatrist.
Right.
And that's the one where he was like, "You say you've possibly killed up to 200 people?" And he's like, "Definitely."
Well, he kind of wavered. And then, yes.
I just love how he would look him dead in the face and just, "Definitely." So you killed him, you shoved your fist up his ass until he died. Definitely.
Oh, we're going to get to that. I just watched that one today.
What, the one where he shoved his fist up his ass till he died?
No, the
Oh.
with the shrink.
That was the best one.
That was the best one.
Because the other two really, the second one just kind of regurgitated and went into the ever so slightest amount of higher detail about the same fucking stories.
Now,
because there's not that many though. Because my big precursor for this that makes it kind of hard to talk to or hard to get a long one out of is for as many people as he supposedly killed, which I'm assuming from the trial and some of the people that informed on him, he did kill a fuckload of people. I don't know how many, but he, even though apparently had done hits for them before he ever knew he was mob related.
Right. He had 2 stints with the mob.
Well, he said the first time he said he killed this guy for some guy. And then when he got home, it was on the news. He was he said he was putting together toys for his kids. And he said he saw on the news a mob related killing. He was like, that's the first time I heard that I was mob related.
Right.
I was like, how the fuck do you not know you're mob related? You're telling me that a guy with no less than 18 fucking consonants in his name or vowels in his name walked up to you. My name's Leonard Santorini Gugliata. I need to talk business with you. He's like, okay, definitely. Where there's a will, there's a way, my friend. I was waiting for like Joe Pesci to come out and be like, fuck you, motherfuckers. Richard's a fucking good guy. He watched my ass when I was on the fucking set of that goddamn Home Alone movie. Those cocksuckers were trying to kill me left and right. Then I found out it was part of the fucking script.
And we'll kind of get into that a little bit, his runs with the mob. But prosecutors say that number, actually, that 200 number, is low.
Yeah, I mean,
if they think it's closer over 3.
Well, because here's the big fucking the big ass elephant in the room, kind of, for me, is I don't doubt this shit if it's true,
and that's because something you have to take into account.
Because he only copped to 5.
Yes, he was only charged for 5.
And as far as I saw, they could really only get him for those 5.
Right. But there were a lot more that,
like he knew the evidence of, which is what makes it interesting. Because the whole time I'm listening, I'm like, I'm hearing about these same like 3 or 4, and I'm like, okay, so maybe he's just doing what murderers do, because a fuckload of murderers. What was it, Henry Lee Lucas or whatever the fuck? I don't remember his name. That claimed like 100 bodies after they arrested him for like, I think he got arrested for rape and murder of a couple people, and he like just went on this tirade of like, oh, I killed this person, I killed that person, blah 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 blah, make up shit. They'd be like, that's literally impossible, and he'd be like, did it.
Right. Now, before we get into the start of all this, I think this poses a interesting question. He was a contract killer. He got paid to kill people.
Yeah.
At some point. I think contract killing and serial killers are 2 different things.
Oh, 100%.
A contract killer is not necessarily he's a murderer.
Yeah, he's a murderer. He's not.
Now, I think serial killer,
because he's also, he even said it. I also wouldn't say that he is an assassin, because an assassin has more spy shit going on, whereas he was just like, I like to look him in the eye when I kill him.
I think they share a lot of traits, and you have to be a psychopath. You have to have.
Oh, he's definitely a fucking psychopath.
You have to, but I will kind of get into this. I'm going to give my opinion that might not be very popular later on toward the end of this, but you have to make. I hate when they say he's a serial killer. He is not a serial killer. He's a contract killer. Okay, we're going to make that distinction. Now, it also.
I mean, in technical terms, maybe, but like, there's, I know, I see what you're saying.
There's a reason.
There's a difference.
Contract killers kill for a reason.
Yeah.
Not because Satan's telling them to, or a voice in their head's telling them to. They're killing for a reason.
Well, and that's what blew me away about this whole thing is like, we'll once we get into it, like, it does reach a point where, because anybody.
And that Lamont asked a question: which would be worse, a contract killer or a contract or serial killer? And that's what I'm going to.
Serial killer is worse.
That's what I'm going to talk about toward the end when we really go into opinions.
We can do that, but that's already my vote. But because what blew me away, and this kind of lends to kind of my answer on this question, is like this was if nobody's seen the Iceman tapes, if anybody here or listening hasn't seen them, this is the most emotionless, monotone, like oddly thought out speaker
Right.
as far as a convicted murderer that I've seen that you'll see in a long time.
It's almost scary.
He doesn't like he literally you can't even tell if he's looking someone in the eye while he's doing the interview. I don't know if he's just looking off to the side. You don't know because of the angle, but like he moves his mouth and his eyebrows might lift a couple times an hour.
Right.
And other than that, he just directly answers questions
If the
about
his
murder.
responses are well thought out. You can tell he's thinking about his responses.
Yeah, because he that's the other thing is like it take those documentaries with how much of their interview they used could have been 15 minutes long for real.
Right.
If they'd cut out all the times where they'd ask a question, he'd just and then he'd look back at him and start to answer him.
But his demeanor and how he
fucking it's badass in the most terrifying way.
It is scary.
Yeah.
Let's just
like
say,
I wouldn't be comfortable talking to that dude.
And I will say this: if I'm sitting across the table from the Iceman and Jeffrey Dahmer, I tell you which one I'm keeping my fucking eye on. It's Richard, Big Rich.
Well, yeah, throw in the fact that he was 6'5", 300 pounds.
Dahmer, I ain't worried about that motherfucker.
Not when the other one's around.
No,
I'm more worried about, if nothing else, I want to watch Dahmer because I want to see him fucking Kuklinski fucking slide some random tiny little weapon into his jugular vein and fucking bleed him out. Just.
But I have to say the name Iceman is perfect. Which that's not why he got the name Iceman.
No, we'll get into that.
That's an even interesting story.
Which is another thing. Jeffrey Dahmer kind of taking notes out of old Richard's book.
A lot of people took notes. Now, I'm sure he didn't create a lot of this shit, but if you watch,
I mean, he had to. Did you hear him tell the story about the one killing where he was like, "This one might be original"? I don't know.
Oh,
yeah,
I've seen
because that one's fucking.
I've seen
in movies
and shit. Yes,
but not before he did it.
Right. He was an innovator. I will give him. Motherfucker did his homework.
And he was a fucking psychopath from birth.
We are going to get to that, but it also.
You're going to talk about his dad too.
I want to
a little bit.
That's what I want to talk about now, and I want to start by asking this question:
What year was he born?
1935.
Oh yeah, because they said he died at 70.
Yeah, he's like 76 or something like that. Well, he died in 2006, so he was what 71.
I think he said 70 on the video I watched.
So
the last thing I watched.
He might have been 70. Whoa. No, he was 70, just short of 71. I hate to say, I'm going to say killers because I don't want to say serial killers, but I'm grouping contract killers, killers, and serial killers kind of together. Are they made or are they born? What do you?
I think they're both born. Because I don't think, even as a contract killer, like a contract killer, I would say has, which is going to sound fucking crazy to some people, I would say guys like this have more conscience than a serial killer. They're just able to not listen to it and to not let it bother them when they go against it.
I'm going to disagree a little bit on that. I think
and there's also the fact that I think serial killers are more apt, like the serial killers as we know them, like the big name guy, like, you know, the
Dahmers,
they have there's also more of a chance that you're going to throw in things like sexual assaults and rapes and possibly like pedophilia and shit like that. Right. Whereas a contract killer at least has some type of a moral ground to stand on, in that, like he even said he wouldn't kill a kid.
Has rules.
Yeah, like they have something. Right. Whereas most serial killers, I feel like, are just kind of so opportunistic.
You know, I'm going to answer the question. I think the answer to the question, are serial killers or killers these higher classes of killers, just not somebody who gets pissed off and shoots somebody, one person, but who fall under the serial killer or contract killer tag. I think they're both. I think they are born. They're born and fucked up. They're born
Yeah.
with psychopathic tendencies, but also their environment builds on that. And like in that documentary, the shrink said, when that made me nervous. When he
Oh
said,
yeah.
I
When
have
he answered all those
when he said,
questions.
I have a question for you. He said, you want to answer your question? He said, I might have a question for you. And it basically asked him, what do you think? Why do you think I'm paraphrasing? Why do you think I'm this way? I was nervous for that motherfucker listening to him
Yeah,
answer.
when he said he had paranoid personality disorder.
Disorder and schizophrenia. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another one, but I was like, dude, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. That motherfucker. And he was
I mean,
sitting
true,
there,
but
and he
yeah,
was
I
just
bet
sitting there
you
like
that.
this. He was sitting there going,
I bet you he had so much more respect for that doctor after that.
because
Guys like that usually, because guys like that are still dudes. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and he even said that at that point in his life, he wasn't about not that he was anti the violence. He even said in that interview, he was like, I've gone 10 years without any violence.
Right.
He's like, it doesn't do it for me.
But
I got nothing for it.
and the doctor even says, people are born with that. They can go one of two ways, and it's how they are raised.
Yeah.
A lot
And
of people
his
who have
sack
the
of
same
shit dad.
a lot of people who have the same tendencies, like he uses the idea, or says like race car drivers, even
Adrenaline junkies.
adrenaline, right, is a
Because
perfect.
that's when he asked him if he knows what an adrenaline rush
Right.
feels like.
You could tell that was before. You could tell he was
Excuse
leading
me.
that way.
Yeah, and
just
he
how
said sex.
that,
He said, well, a lot of people could say, he's like, no, the only pleasure I get is from sex.
Right. So I think the answer is both. They are. You have to be born fucked up, but I think we are all born a little fucked up.
Yeah.
But the home life, your environment, kind of molds you and points you in, leans you in.
Yeah, and his dad was a
certain
fucking
direction.
sack of shit,
And
which
his
we'll get
dad
into.
was-
And real quick, just because Tyler's one of the regs, he said he wasn't about the life anymore. Let me rephrase this. Richard Kuklinski said that he hasn't been violent in X amount of years, and it doesn't do it for him, basically, is what he said. But he did also throw into that statement when he said that to that doctor, I don't feel anything if I have to hit someone, or if I have to hurt someone, or if I have to kill someone. He didn't. His conscience wasn't the thing telling him not to do these things. I think he was just fucking old and tired, because he had to be in his 60s by that time.
He knows he's not as good as he once was.
Yeah.
Actually, he was late.
Well,
60s.
he even said when he asked him, he was like, "What would you?" He was like, "If you got out of prison today, would you go back to your old ways and to make money?" He's like, "No, I would probably find someplace quiet to retire with no slamming doors and yelling people." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's just an old guy. He'll still fucking murder you without thinking twice about it."
Yeah. Now, there's no doubt his home life sucked. His father,
Stanley, he was a fucking sack of shit.
An abusive drunk.
He used to beat the fuck out of those kids.
And apparently he killed. Now, there are some people that say, and Richard even talks about this at some point, he killed his older brother, punched his other brother in the back of the head, and killed him.
Really?
Yes.
Because his younger brother's
in jail too. Well, we'll
same,
cover that
the
too.
same jail.
But his older brother, I think his name was Florian or something like that.
Oh yeah, I did. I did. I briefly heard about that.
And they basically told the cops he fell to the ground. Now that was
which would work back then. We're talking
Right.
the 30s or 40s, probably.
Probably the 40s. Yeah, early 40s, because I think he was. I think
that's what I'm saying, because it's his older brother.
I think his father left. That his father ended up leaving. I think leaving the family around when he was 11.
Well, he didn't have much good to say about his mother either.
Well, that's so his mother was very abusive.
What was his what did he say? He said when his father beat the shit out of them regularly for no reason, because he was a drinker too. Because I remember that therapist asked me, he was like, "Would your dad beat you? Was it worse when he was drunk or when he was sober?" What did he said something along the lines of it just didn't matter, is basically what he said. And he said he was a nasty son of a bitch or what did he say? He said, were you sad when he died? Did you go to the funeral? He was like, I didn't want to see him in life. Why would I want to go see him at death? He was a nasty son of a bitch when he was alive. He was a nasty son of a bitch when he walked out of this world. Right. And I was like, God damn.
And like you said, his mother was not much better.
He he didn't have nearly as bad, but he didn't have anything actually good to say about his
Right.
mother. But he did give his mom like a not an excuse,
But
but
somewhat of a
an
pass.
insight into why she was.
She had it
who
rough.
she
She had
was.
a rough childhood herself.
I think everybody did back then.
Sexual. There, I believe. She was very religious. We've talked about this before.
Well, because he even said he used a religious terminology when the therapist asked him about his mother. He was like, "What about your mother? Was your mother the nice parent?" And he was like, and he said something about like his or what he felt when he was around his mother. And what did he say? He's like dislike, like extreme dislike,
right,
is what he felt for his mother. And then he even said he was like, because you have to remember, my mother didn't, what's the word, spare the rod.
Right.
He specifically said that. He was like, she would hit us with a broomstick. He's like, where? And he was like, wherever it would land. Like
wherever it hit.
I was like, God damn, you're out there getting fucking Ken Blackman and shit.
You remember, this is the 40s.
Yeah. Like am I in fucking favor of it? No. But was it odd? Also fucking no back then.
It was common. I caught the tail end of this shit.
Dude, there's still nuns whooping kids' ass with rulers in schools today.
I mean, my mom's not in here, but I'll tell my mom would come after me with one of them, a wooden bat, or she threw my football helmet at me one time.
Yeah.
Of course, I remember in 8th grade, I was 6 foot over 200 pounds in 8th grade. And she had, she had to protect herself.
Now, that's another interesting comment about how you'd be more afraid of a contract killer or less afraid of a contract killer because they only kill for money. We'll get into this. This guy, I think he was a serial killer on and off throughout his life.
I think
because if all his stories are true, he definitely just would fucking murder people because they looked at him wrong.
He was a smart,
even though he'd never seen them before in his life.
He was a serial killer that said, "Wait a minute." He was an entrepreneurial serial killer.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do bad shit, at least make money for it.
Get paid for it. And that's kind of what we're gonna talk about.
I'm saying, like, you're a fucking idiot if you're just walking around handing crack out for free.
Now he was being of Polish descent. He was Polish.
Kuklinski, you don't say.
His dad was Polish. His mom was Irish. So he was
Irish.
Well, you think about Polish and Irish together, that's a trifecta. Really,
he was an eye roller.
I know it's only 2.
Well, and then who do you end up fucking getting involved with? The Italians / Sicilians. Right. There you got.
But he was picked on a lot, and he was a bigger kid anyway, tall, always fairly tall for his age. But
he's lanky.
He was getting picked on a lot. Now
he's just running around in fucking those really short knicker shorts, and they're like, "Hey, what's up, Buttlinsky?"
Right.
Or Buttlicksky.
Now, where things seem to go off the rail is around 13. He killed his first person at, I'm going to say 13. Now, before that, he was doing the serial killer shit.
He's killing cats, tying their tails together and watching them like shred each other.
Throw them over a clothesline, watch them shred. Throw them in an incinerator, because at that time,
because that was the weird part, is when he started talking about shit like that. There was one story about throwing a cat in the incinerator that it oddly sounded like a 60-year-old man that's stuck as a kid at the end of it. Because he was talking about throwing this cat in the incinerator, and he turned it on, and the flames started getting bigger, and he was running around, and like at the end of that story, he's just looking at the person interviewing him, and he's like, the flames just got bigger and bigger, and he didn't run no more.
I mean,
and he said he didn't run. The cat didn't run no more, and I was like, excuse me, that was gross. I was like, that's oddly, like, almost like he snapped back to a childlike mind state for a second when he said that.
He does that a lot.
Yeah. I think that's a game too. I think he kind of wants people to think he's dumber or crazier than he really was.
He makes a comment because, we'll get into how he killed. He poisons a lot of people, use cyanide, and we'll talk more about that. But
at least he did some, like, I'm not saying it's cool to kill people, but like some cool spy movie type shit.
He was telling a story in one of those, I believe, maybe I heard it, I've listened to so much shit about he was at a club, and he was really, like I said, he was smart, very intelligent, and he was very creative. He would if you could please. Very creative with killing, and he was telling this story that he was at a club and could not get close to the guy, so he went. It was there were some gay people. Did you hear the story?
Yeah.
He went and said, "You know what? Nobody's looking at the gay guys." So he went and dressed flamboyantly and was acting gay to get close to this guy, and basically he injects him with cyanide. Is what he bumped into him and thank you. He bumped into him and injected him to get close to him. So and the lady, this was the lady that was. It was in one.
And it worked.
Because
what did he say? He said he got basically the gayest outfit he could get, is what he said.
Right.
And what did he say? He said he was like, so he was, I was kind of waving around, acting real swishy or some shit. He said some adjective like that, and he's like, I guess that's what you call it.
Yeah. But when she asked him, well, he said, I jabbed him with the syringe and he had a heart attack. And she asked him, well, what was in the syringe? He said, a heart attack. A heart attack.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's pushing back,
I think
responding like it, or
I think he was just cracking a joke to himself because he just smiled. Because is that the one? I think is that the statement he made when she was like, "What does that mean?" And he was like, I think that's when he was like, "That was a," and he went. It's like he went to say that was a joke.
That was the bridge comment.
Oh yeah.
I forget what they were talking about.
He said something about a bridge. He said something about buying a bridge.
Or he said, like, do you feel remorse or something for killing that guy? He said, yeah, I felt bad. I also got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
Or I got a bridge, something like that.
I got a bridge. Yeah, he said, I got a bridge. And she was like, what does that mean? He's like, I got a bridge to sell you. And she's like, well, I don't understand it. He was like, that was my attempt at levity.
You're right.
And I was like, holy shit, did he just crack a fucking joke that no one ever gets?
Right. He would be the worst comedian ever.
No, he'd be a great comedian because you'd laugh out of terror. Like,
right.
You'd just be so scared.
Because
I'm a nervous laugher anyway. He'd be sitting there like holding a gun to my face. He'd just be like, 2 + 2 is fuck you. And I'm like, oh shit.
Now, the reason we're not going to get a lot into his actual killings, because there's so much. I've heard 15 stories for the same murders. I don't know how.
I mean, they all have similar points.
He started killing at about 13 from what I've heard.
I heard 18.
Oh, no, he started at 13. He killed. I heard there's one story when he killed a bully at 13.
When they came to his house?
They were all in the same area.
Yeah.
Their project.
When he was like, we went to war.
Kind of. And he beat him with the broomstick or the handle, beat him to death. Now, I've heard he left the body there and just went home. And then the cops found. Then I heard another story at 13. He killed a guy, another bully that was picking on him, call him a Pollock and such. He killed the guy. And I heard somehow he took him to some body of water. I don't know what to get him on his swim, but he cut off his fingertips.
He was how old?
13.
Okay, so he was probably like 6 foot, 200 pounds.
But he cut off his fingertips and pulled his teeth, this kid's teeth, at 13, doing this to conceal his identity. Now,
so it was
I've heard one story
50s, so they had to pull out like 4 teeth.
I've heard this story as the same story, and I've also heard it as 2 different murders. That's why I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. And you never know with how all this shit works with this guy. Like, you never know what's sensationalized by the media and what's changing in his story.
But at 13, he started killing, and he says himself in that one with the doctor, the shrink, he killed 100 before anybody ever knew him.
Yeah. He said before he was a young man, or when he was a young man.
And one of the most popular stories, and here's what he does not. He has natural anger issues.
Yeah,
and he goes off the deep end, and he goes off the deep end hard. He don't half-ass shit. He goes.
Yeah, he talked about strangling a guy just because he didn't like him,
and that was the one.
Yeah,
that was when he told him where
he said he might have been an innovator.
Yeah,
for how
where
he
basically he had got like a clothesline tied around his neck and put him over his back, put him like Santa on a fucking and was pulling up, over his shoulder, leaned over and was choking the guy out.
Yeah, and it was like just because he didn't like him.
And he did nothing. He just didn't like him.
Yeah, I don't even think he knew the dude's name.
Now, at 18, he was in a bar.
Yeah.
And he did not like loudmouths and boisterous people.
Yeah, they reminded him of his dad.
And if you were very loud in a bar and very boisterous and, talking shit, which happens at a bar.
Yeah.
And I guess he got in a little bit of a confrontation with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go to blows right there, but he left the bar and he saw that guy sitting in his car. Now, what did this fucker do? He said, I went and got a cup or a bottle, filled it with gasoline, lit it, and threw it in the car.
Yeah.
Threw a Molotov cocktail into the guy's car and walked away. But stuck around and left where
he could hear him scream.
Now, I think
didn't he say he stuck around long enough he could hear him scream, then he saw the ambulance and shit pull up, and then he left?
Right. Now, I also heard that this was also an off-duty cop. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Well, spoiler alert, if that's true, there's more than one cop on his fucking list.
Oh, yes.
By the time his career's over.
Right.
I would venture to think that he's probably got quite a few more members of law enforcement or possible local government than he would when he was alive, than he was probably dumb enough to lead on about.
Now, at 18 and in his early 20s, he had his own crew, basically.
Even I think when he was also 18, he beat the fuck out of that dude with a pool stick.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think he killed him as well.
Now, he was doing petty crimes with his crew. Now, this is where his entrance into the mob, per se, is like the story you told, where, he didn't realize he was mob, but he got involved with a guy. Him and his crew got involved with a guy who was apparently was a made man. And one story I heard is how it got started was they wanted somebody to do a hit. And him and his crew the guy took him and his crew and pointed the guy out, and they were going to whack him.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he was
whack him off.
Maybe after
you forgot that.
Yes, but he wasn't even supposed to pull the trigger. But the member of his crew that was going to pull the trigger got, he had second thoughts.
Yeah, as a normal human being does about killing another person.
So he grabbed the gun, went and did it, and just walked away.
Yeah.
Now, I believe this was actually, he's most notorious for being a hitman for the Gambino family.
Mm-hmm. But he did work for multiple families.
This was, I believe, a Genovese.
Yeah.
Genovese crime family. And I guess he did some odd jobs for them. His crew did some odd jobs. Now, we talked earlier, he had rules. Did not want to kill women, definitely would not kill children, and would not fuck with the mob.
Mm-hmm.
He knew where his bread was buttered. Apparently,
and because that's the one other group that's in the tri-state area that he lives in that they could touch him back.
Now, apparently I heard one story, I don't know how true this is, but he had the mob rule. Don't fuck with the mob. Don't steal from the mob. Don't kill, unless you're told to kill somebody in the mob.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fuck with the mob. He was playing poker with that group, the maid guys of that group. Somebody came in and robbed the poker game.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out it was members of his own crew.
Oh, Jesus.
And
good call, kids.
He went and handled it. He took care of his own crew because he broke his rule.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure this was that story. This is where it gets kind of confusing, was that first go around with the mob. It could be the second. I don't know for sure. But eventually that guy.
Well, you don't know, because from one of the news reports that I heard said that by the mid 60s, he was one of the mob's top enforcers.
Right.
But I'm like, that's pretty fucking young. You know what I mean? Like, he's still in his 20s at that point.
Probably right around late 20s, early 30s. He was born in 35.
Oh, so okay. So yeah, he's 30. So right. 30.
But he's been killing for 13 years. At least. So probably for 16 years by that point. But this guy.
Yeah, but I mean, to be Polish and be running with the mob by your 30s or by your early to mid 30s.
Tyler asked, "Did he kill Jimmy Hoffa?"
We'll talk about
We're
that
going
too.
to talk about that. I made note of that
because he did not say anything about that, but he also didn't say whether or not he killed what's his tits. Fuck.
DeMayo.
No, what DeMayo and was it Bratva or something like that?
Oh,
Sammy or Polly. I mean, I just named every
Mr. Softy.
Was that? No, he was a mob guy.
Okay.
That they thought was turning states and fucking they.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't DeMayo.
I can't think of his name, but Mr. Softy's an interesting story. You got to stick around.
I can't remember the fucking guy's name either, but they straight up said, "Did you kill him?" He's like, I don't.
Mr. Softy is an awesome story, and I want to get to that here in a little bit. But this first go around with, I believe, the Genovese family, and like I said, it could be the second go around, but I'm pretty sure his contact in his way in got whacked.
Who's he?
Got whacked basically, and that was
as will happen in that
job
fucking
hazard.
realm.
Job hazard.
Yeah, you literally just die all the time.
And apparently that it's the mob just don't take anybody. That kind of slowed down business.
Yeah, they don't just burn cards for nobody.
And that was one of when he went into kind of the movie industry, from what I understand.
Oh, the porn industry.
Well, he didn't start with porn.
It was just film in general.
He started doing like Disney shit and animation. He was working at a film distributor, but then he started bootlegging. His original bootlegging was of Disney films. What kind of fucking market on the black market is there for Mickey Mouse? And
it's always been a thing,
but apparently
I had a shitload of bootleg DVDs when I was a kid,
but it wasn't as profitable. Eventually, he moved into porn because that was where the money was at. But
especially back then,
he did have a weird fascination, from what people say, with animation and Disney movies. Maybe it's that childhood thing.
Could be.
Kind of Michael Jackson syndrome. Never got really out of.
Like I said, I liked that new Clifford movie more than I thought I would.
I like Clifford as a kid. I mean, I would not be.
Yeah, they made a live action of it.
I've seen the commercials for it.
It's pretty good.
It looks. I would probably go see it, not by myself,
it's on Paramount Plus. You can borrow mine.
Anyway, where were we? Oh, but so he started making ends meet by the black market bootlegging.
And by this time, he had a family,
and he did actually. See, I've heard he was married twice. He had with his.
I just know by that time he was with his wife, like his actual wife
with the $2 and a son.
Yeah.
And I think he had 2 kids from a previous marriage. I've heard that, and I've heard somebody say they've heard it too. They don't know, but I thought I saw something.
For all of his enemies, I would hope not, because more wives and children is just more reasons to piss this guy off.
Right. So eventually he gets hooked back into the mob somehow, or he gets an audition, I guess, with the DeMayo crew, which are the Gambino family.
Yeah. If anybody knows anything about the mafia and the history of the mafia, you fucking know. You know who the Genovese family is. You know who the Gambino family is, and you probably know who Roy DeMayo is.
And DeMayo was a crazy killing motherfucker.
Yeah.
What was the name of that club that they had? They just take people. They had showers and they just take people and slaughter them.
Oh, it was the Gemini Club.
Gemini Club.
It was above the Gemini Club.
Right.
It was just a murder house.
Right. That's what it was. And he got hooked up with him. Now, you've heard the story about him killing the guy walking the dog.
Yeah.
That was his kind of audition, I think, with DeMayo's crew, where he just walked up, shot the guy with the dog.
Yeah.
And just
Well, and then there's I can't remember if he gave a name of the one, but there was also that one guy that owed money.
Is it $1,600?
I don't even remember how much, but he owed money from gambling.
I think it was,
and Kuklinski put his name on him and was like, "He's a good guy, he'll pay it." And he was like, "You better pay it."
Right. He shot him in the car, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, actually, that just turned into a whole different one. I was talking about a different one.
Oh.
He owed Roy DeMayo money. This guy owed Roy DeMayo money, so he was like, "I need you to go visit this guy." And he's like, "Okay." And the guy was like, "Oh no, it's fine, it's fine. Let me talk to Roy. It's fine, it's fine." And he's like, "Get him on the phone." And so he said he dialed him and he gave him the phone and he was like, "Yeah, da, da." And he was like, see, I told you, he's in a different place. He's in a different headspace now. Here, he wants to talk to you. And he said he picked up the phone and he just said, kill him. And he said, pow, and just walked out of the fucking payphone.
Right. Yeah. Now there's another one where a guy owed him $1,600, and he went,
which is a fuckload of money back then.
then.
I mean, it's a fuckload of money now.
Shit.
I don't know if I'm going to kill somebody over it, but like I might hit you in the fucking face for it.
Yeah. But I guess he went to the guy that kind of gave him the runaround.
Give you the old why I oughta.
Gave him the runaround, gave him a bullshit story, and he did not have tolerance for, if you aggravated him,
it was too late.
You were heading down dead train. And
yeah.
You were looking at,
which after this we can spiral straight into the doctor for a second again on this one.
So he said, all right, he knew he was getting lied to. He said, all right. And I guess he was walking around, and he walked around the corner and saw the guy sitting in his car.
Mm-hmm.
Said,
oh yeah.
No. That's right. He went home. That's right. He went home.
There's so many stories.
And he got pissed off. He was sitting there thinking about it, got pissed off. So he left. He said, fuck this. I'm going back out. And he went and found him, saw him in his car. Went, knocked on the window. It was snowing at the time. He said the car was covered in snow, still on the windows. Knocked on the door, and the guy said, get on in. He got on in, and he said, he kind of gave him the same story, and he just shot him 5 times in a car with the windows up. Didn't give a shit, and that shit's loud. And
was that the one?
He shot him 5 times, reached in his pocket, grabbed out a wad of bills, took his $1,600 and put the rest back in his pocket and left.
Well, because he did the same thing to the guy that owed money to bookies and shit.
Yeah.
And fuck, was it that guy? Yeah, because he said, what was it? He said this dude owed money to bookies, and Kuklinski vouched for him, and then he told him like, yo, you better pay that money. And then in order to get him to do what the guy thought he wanted him to do, he said he threatened his family.
Oh, that was a buddy of his. That was later.
Yeah, that was like later, his friend.
That was later on towards the end of the run. That was one of the last.
Yeah, and that's when he was like, when he got in the car with him, and he was like, why would you say that? You know that would make me angry. And he said, no, I wouldn't make you angry. You'd be scared that something was going to happen to your family. He said, oh, well, Joe, you're so wrong.
I think it's George.
It was George.
Georgie boy.
Georgie boy. He said, George. He said, George, you're very wrong. He said, I pulled out my gun and I shot him 5 times. I said, pop, pop, pop.
He said, I ain't gonna let that happen.
Bah. Yeah. He said, I'm gonna put an end to it.
Yeah.
And because he went into very heavy detail on that one, right, talking about how he could see the clothing that he was wearing reacting to the bullets entering it,
right,
and how stuff was like he was sliding down after he had already shot him 3 times. He shot him 2 more times just to make sure.
This is one of the ones that got him really.
That's the one that got him caught
because he was big on,
because the cops knew that he was the last person that dude was with.
If I'm not mistaken, after
alive,
DeMayo's crew ran its course. I think DeMayo got whacked.
DeMayo's dead. Yeah,
got whacked
because they asked him if he killed Roy DeMayo too.
He kind of went back out on his own.
He wouldn't speak on that.
Right.
He wouldn't say if he did or didn't. He just said that. What did he say? He said it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, and if he was gonna have to die today, that day was a good day for him to die. I was like, Jesus Christ! So you probably fucking killed him too.
Probably. But he went back out on his own, started doing crime, started
making money,
big on porn. Killing on porn and doing worldwide.
He was out slinging that Polish sausage,
and he wasn't doing production, or he was doing production. Wasn't just bootlegging now.
Mm-hmm.
Got into the drugs, and he had a little crew, and somebody was talking to the crew, so he was cleaning house. But he liked to put people in drums.
Yeah, metal drums.
And this guy, Georgie boy, was so big
that he couldn't fit him in there, so he hacked off one of his legs.
I think he used a chainsaw, cut his leg up, and I guess he didn't get it on right, and popped up.
Well, and then like he just left it there like that.
I think
so. He just left it there with the legs right next to it because the guy that saw him saw the drum and then saw a hacked off leg right next to it and was like, "Yeah, I should probably call someone."
Well, he was, like I said, he was big on drums. And did you hear the story? There's one story where
he left it on a street corner
at the of a
bar or something like that. It was
like
a nightclub or some shit,
bodega type thing of where you
because he said he would go in there regularly
every day.
Yeah.
and it was sat there for weeks. And
he
I
didn't he say he even asked somebody about it? Like,
Yeah.
what's up with that drum?
he would go there for lunch every day. I guess
And just watch it. Yeah.
And there was some report saying he would actually go get his lunch and sit on the fucking drum
That doesn't surprise me.
while he was eating his lunch.
And then it was just gone eventually.
Just gone.
He said it was just gone. I don't know where it went. But yeah, all that shit makes me think of when the doctor was on the spot diagnosing him by his request in that interview, and he just kind of looked at him afterwards. He was like, "You made me angry there a little bit," and he's like, "I could tell." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What made you angry?" He was like, "I don't know."
Actually, that was before. That was what led to him saying, "You tell me." That
was
a
it?
little bit before.
Because I just that shit was so scary. Like, I was scared for that doctor. He straight looked at him and said, "You made me angry right there." He's like, and then he started talking about. He's like, "Do you want to elaborate on that or some shit?" And he's like, "No."
That was right before.
He's like, "How mad are you?" He's like, "Not bad."
That was right before. There's a little exchange. He said, "Well, why don't you tell me about me?" Kind of thing. That I'm paraphrasing, but that kind of thing. Because that's why that whole exchange, when he started telling, I was like, "Dude, shut your fucking mouth."
He was like, he said, "I'm not sure what caused it."
Right.
So you got me a little flustered. I'm kind of flush, and I was like, "Oh God, you're gonna die." I was like, "You're so lucky he's in fucking prison, and they got him chained to a chair."
They didn't have his hands chained.
They didn't.
No, because he'd go like this every now and then, scratch his face. Now they might have had something.
They probably had
around his waist.
at least leg irons on him.
Yeah, but still, hands
probably chained. He was probably chained to the floor too.
So that motherfucker's right there. If he wanted to, he could have snatched him up right there. That's what made me nervous, because it was kind of building. You could tell he was getting flustered, and getting annoyed, because he even said, "You are really annoying me right now."
Yeah.
And then he started,
and he never, and like the only emotion he showed throughout all this is he kind of smiled a couple times. And I was like, is he smiling just because he's feeling some type of emotion right now?
Here's how smart this fucker is. He's very, because fairly early on, or maybe halfway through, they're telling, he's telling stories, and there's kind of cutting up, laughing, and he even says, "We're having way too much fun about this right now."
Yeah.
And the way he says something,
he said people are gonna start thinking I'm a nice guy.
And if he's looking at him when he said it, it's almost like, because that's what that doctor's doing. He's trying to get close to him. He's trying to build a rapport with him.
Yeah,
and that was his way, I think, of saying, "I know what the fuck you're doing, motherfucker."
I mean, but realistically, just seeing how this guy operated throughout his whole life, he knew exactly what that therapist was going to try to do before he ever stepped foot in the same room as him.
Right.
This dude is as odd, and he definitely isn't as dumb as I think he tried to portray himself as being a couple times. Like, because I never thought he was acting stupid, but there were definitely times where you could tell he purposely kind of dumbed himself down in the way that he responded to something.
Right.
But he's not dumb.
No, by no stretch.
By any means. Like, he might not be able to get he might not be able to pass like the LSATs without studying.
Well, but he only had an 8th grade. He dropped out of 8th grade.
Yeah, and he did just fine. I'd imagine he was making fucking fistfuls of cash. Because when the doctor asked him how much he would charge for a contract killing, he said at least 5 figures the higher end of 5 figures, not the lower end.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, so if you're talking, what if you go in the middle there, $75,000, you say he's killed 200 people, you say even just 50 of those are contract killings, that's what?
Well,
so 2 is, now I got to figure it out. 2 is 2,500. It's like what, like $5.5 million or some shit, just off that.
There's 2 things I want to get to. Like I said, we're kind of jumping around because the stories.
I know that math's wrong before anybody tries to roast me,
but we're jumping around here. But
that's how all of it is. Fuck off.
God,
it's like you hear the story. It's like you hear all this shit, and then, but there's just not that much to any of them.
We mentioned.
There's just, this is what happened. This is what I said. This is what he said. And then I killed him.
But this is going to sound weird. He had an amazing amount of drive and smarts. And here's why I'm going to say it. And it's so fucked up with me saying this. I know it's going to come out wrong. Stick around. When he was first getting started.
Yeah.
Especially in the contract business. he was kind of a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to find took a scientific approach to it, and this is what makes him a I would categorize him as a serial killer and a contract killer. He was both.
Mm-hmm.
But he wanted to do a good job, wanted to kill efficiently. Did not like killing with a gun because it was fucking messy. And he
And loud.
He even said in that people say he used a chainsaw, but that's not how he really killed. He might have
No, he used it to he said he had used chainsaws to dismember somebody.
He said it was too messy. I didn't really do that. But he would.
Oh yeah, because I remember the person asking me, it was like, is that messy? He said, oh yeah, very messy,
very messy.
I was like, yeah, no shit, it's a chainsaw.
He was always trying to perfect his craft of murder and being able to do it efficiently. He would try out new methods like a crossbow just to see if it was an effective way. And we talked about cyanide. I want to get into how he got into the cyanide here in a minute. But my point is, he was killing as an experiment, just not the contracts. And he basically would take homeless people and kill them in experiment.
Yeah.
Because, practice makes perfect. You got to practice.
Well, because we're talking about a guy that by the time he was really doing work for the mafia and shit, he's got it so down that he's, like you said, the gay club story.
Right.
Like all he did was walk through that crowd and bump into the dude. And when he bumped into him, he stabbed him and injected him with cyanide.
Right. Now,
and he would even talk about just spraying people with it, because once it soaks into your skin, it eventually works its way into your bloodstream and you fucking die.
But I think the number he says, I think I heard him say this, he probably killed between 50 and 100 people, homeless people, just to practice.
Yeah.
I mean, that in my mind puts him as serial killer, but at least it's for a cause, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
like at least it eventually ended in a career.
I mean, it was practice, just not because he was crazy. He had a motive. His motive.
I mean, man's got to bring home the bacon one way or the other. I guess.
It sounds fucking
even if
horrible.
the bacon is the at least one cop that he also killed.
Yes,
confirmed. I didn't know the other guy might have been a cop.
Oh, this guy.
He did actually 100% kill a cop.
Right.
I think that was the one that he blew his head off with a fucking shotgun. Literally.
The snowstorm in the van. I think that was
it. Might have been.
Yeah.
But his story about who was it that he shot the first time he shot somebody in the head with a.
It was another made man with a cigar.
No, that was a different one.
Oh,
there's two. There's two, because the other one he said because that one was the one who was on a motorcycle.
Yeah, it blew.
Because he heard the guy smoked fat cigars. Right. He rolled up. He said, "Cuban," and the guy said, "Fuck you," and he said, "No, not fuck me, fuck yourself," and he just blew his fucking head off. And he said, "What do you say?" He said it disintegrated like a pumpkin,
like a shotgun hitting a pumpkin.
Yeah, but the first one I remember him telling about was, they were it was at a red light, and he just rolled up and like. He said this car pulled up, and as soon as him and the car pulled up, he just boom, through the windows. And he said he was like he never saw the green light. And he was like they were like is it what you expected? He was like, I expected him to not be alive, but I didn't expect it to take his head off.
Right.
And I was like, Jesus fucking ball sacks, dude. This guy's over here talking about literally blowing people's heads off regularly.
But that is what. He had no empathy whatsoever, which I guess is a great trait if you want to be a contract killer.
Right. I mean, fuck, dude. If somehow the CIA would have got their hands on him,
he could have been
when he was 20, he'd be fucking.
Maybe he killed JFK.
Really? He'd be like.
Think about that. Let's think about that for a minute.
He'd be like the Winter Soldier.
Yes, but think about that. It is well known. We'll get a little conspiratorial. The mob, the CIA used mob.
The mob killed JFK.
The CIA used mob hitmen back in the day.
Yeah.
Kennedy, it's no conspiracy. Kennedy was shot.
No, I thought he fell on a bullet.
Yeah, the magic bullet.
That stupid fucking theory.
There's no. Everybody knows the Kennedys were
Mob related.
They were
Not
mob related.
They were
and
mob
then
connected. I don't want to say related because related, everybody's gonna be like, they didn't have any family. Okay, they didn't.
no, because they were Irish,
But they were.
they were connected.
That's what I was. I was
Same-
like, just go back to Boston and join your own fucking mob. Jesus, you'd be safer.
They had some ties.
Well, actually, no, you wouldn't, because then you'd have to deal with Whitey Bulger.
They had ties with the mob, and then they basically, when they got into power, got into the presidency, and then Bobby, was the attorney general, kind of said, "Fuck you guys." And let's be honest.
Yeah, he
Bob got
like.
them
Don't get me wrong. Like, the mafia wasn't known for doing the best deeds,
right?
But the Kennedy, at least certain members of the Kennedy family, kind of did some twisty, two-faced shit and bent them boys over the barrel.
So the mob,
after they, not that it, like, again, it's not that it's good, but the mob did a lot of good stuff for them
to get them elected.
And Bobby Kennedy butt fucked them when he got his chance.
I know this,
or at least didn't take an opportunity to get them not butt fucked.
I know this for a fact that the mob had played a nice role in helping them get elected.
Yeah,
know it for a fact.
Just like I'm fully convinced that they had played a very nice role in both of them dying.
So they were on the mob's list. They were on the CIA's list because of the whole Cuban Missile and what was going on with Cuba, the whatever that fucking,
and the whole young Catholic thing.
Not the Cuban Missile Crisis, but that one little
Bay of Pigs
that they backed out. That Kennedy said, "Fuck you."
See, and people make fun of me for being a wealth of useless information. Sometimes it comes in handy.
So, and with the CIA using the mob to do wet work at times, because the mob was good at it. The Iceman was good at it. So maybe what was the Iceman? See, if Kennedy would have died of a heart attack, wasn't shot, I'd say, okay, maybe the Iceman had something to do with it.
Because the way that Kennedy died wasn't his style anyway.
Yeah.
He shot a fuckload of people.
He did not.
But not like that.
He was more up close and personal. He liked to look at them.
Yeah.
He wanted to look into their eyes.
Yeah. He said when he was talking to the therapist that he would stand there to watch them die. And he'd basically stand there and see the confusion and then the fear. And then he said after that, you're basically just looking at your own reflection in their eyes because they're dead.
He wasn't completely heartless. He did show emotion at One Way of Killing. Did you hear that? You saw this. He would take people to a cavern.
Oh, yeah.
Tie them up and just leave them and set up a camera and let the rats come.
Yeah.
And film them being eaten alive by rats. That is the first time and only time I heard him say, and he said in that interview with that doctor, that made him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So he wasn't completely heartless.
Well, because I mean, he's also doing stuff like, what was it? The one hit he had, it was requested that he cut out their tongue and shove it up their ass.
Yeah,
which is a pretty common thing, actually. Like that's not an uncommon thing to happen to people who fucking tell on people that they shouldn't tell on.
Right.
Again, I'm not condoning organized crime, but if you're gonna find yourself in that lifestyle, there are definitely people that you are, even if you're going down for life, you are better off just not saying some motherfucker's name. And that's what happens when you do. But the other one was the one about the guy that was praying. Did you hear about that one? Oh, he showed a little bit in that. He was talking about he had to kill this guy, and it was just them. And he had him, like he didn't have to worry about people really so much. And he said he was begging him not to kill him. And he was like, oh God, what did he say? He was like, oh God, and left and right, or some shit like that. And he was like, all right, I'll give you 30 minutes to pray to God. And if in that 30 minutes, God can make this situation change, then he was like, go ahead, you have that time. And he said at the end of the 30 minutes, he said God didn't change anything, and he killed him. And after he told that story, he sat there, he's just like, I shouldn't have done that one. I shouldn't have done it like that.
That was a bit much.
And I was like, that's it. That's all you got to say. I shouldn't have done that one. Yeah, you shouldn't have. And then he said, I shouldn't have done it like that. Okay, so either way, he was gonna die.
Oh yeah.
Like, so does it really matter how you did that one? Like,
Yeah, good point. Now, okay, let's get into we've kind of this is the gist of the Iceman.
he killed everybody all the time, and he didn't care.
Now, he was a psychopath,
Yes.
antisocial disorder, all the
He
characteristics.
he had a slew of personality disorders.
And I actually watching that documentary with the doctor.
Yeah. When he told him that he has paranoid behavior,
yeah.
paranoid
Yeah, some big long medical term.
Paranoid personality disorder.
Right.
Because he just doesn't trust fucking anybody ever.
I got nervous watching that. It struck me because you know what? I'm antisocial. I don't like people. I don't trust very many people. I had a shitty childhood. I missed my fucking calling. I could have been a contract killer.
I don't think he could.
The only difference between me and him is I have empathy. And
he has empathy for 4 people in the world.
The doctor put it as fear. He has no fear about the consequences.
Oh yeah,
to where I kind of do, but I don't like. And he is big people. We talked earlier about the loud and boisterous people. I don't like loud and boisterous. You see me at the fucking bar.
Yeah.
If somebody's fucking loud and boisterous, I get aggravated.
Yeah. Especially like when they're being assholes. It's one thing to be loud and boisterous and be like that guy that's just like, everybody around me have fun. Like, that's a little different. But when they're just fucking screaming at football games and
I was this close to being a serial killer or a contract killer. I just have a little bit more empathy. I don't want to hurt. I might not hurt you, but I don't trust you.
I mean, like he never gave a fuck. He didn't even give a fuck after he got caught.
Right.
Like they picked him up, like because they said he just wouldn't get out of the car.
Hold on,
when they arrested him.
Let's talk about how he got arrested. He killed Georgie Boy. That's
what got him.
He was already on the radar. That kind of gave him.
Yeah, he was fucked already, but like that one, he broke it off. With that killing.
They got undercover agent to
I can't remember his name.
Oh no,
Dominic.
We got to get to this. I forgot. We got to get to this. Mr. Softy.
Oh yeah, this is your thing.
I love Mr.
I know this. I know what you're talking about.
Now,
I wasn't as enamored with this story as you are, apparently.
Mr. Softy was a man who drove an ice cream truck, but was also a contract killer.
Yeah.
Now I heard a story of how they met. They were in a bathroom, taking a leak together, and they kind of looked at each other, and they said you could tell another contract killer by the way they moved, by the way they dressed. And the questions they started talking to each other, asking questions. You know, it came out basically. He said, "Yeah, yeah. You here on work? Basically, are you here work? Are you here to kill me? No. Are you here to kill me? No. Okay, we're not here to kill each other. Okay." They became friends. And Mr. Frosty, I think his name was Richard Prong, something like that. I don't know. Mr. Frosty became like a mentor to him, and he was the one who taught him the cyanide shit. Okay, now,
which is like one small detail about the whole cyanide thing to note is that's very specific because people have used strychnine, they've used anthrax, all this shit. Cyanide is like once it's in your bloodstream or once it's ingested, you're fucked.
And actually, you mentioned earlier about the spraying. Mr. Softy is one who basically, he's very well read. He was kind of like him, maybe didn't do the experiment, the live action experiment.
Well, he clearly did sometime in his life, even if it was at war.
He practiced this stuff too, and he gave him the cyanide soaking into the skin way of killing, which is a brilliant way of killing.
Yeah, like I'm again,
and he also,
for the 1,000th time, we're not condoning this behavior, but I mean, it's like a fucking movie, dude. It's James Bond. Some of this shit is James Bond shit.
And Mr. Softy,
by a 6'5" Polish kid guy.
Mr. Softy also is responsible for him getting his nickname because he is the one who taught him what I'm about to tell everybody, that got him the Iceman.
Oh yeah.
He taught him to actually put, after he killed somebody, put the bodies in a freezer because it freeze the bodies and save it for a later day.
For extended periods of time.
That would fuck up the time of that when he was actually
Because it would
killed.
keep them. It would keep them so like once it was the body is actually frozen, which does take a while. They'd be like, wait, and then you freeze it because one that you're probably is probably the one you're going to talk about. He left in there for 2 years.
Yeah,
in the freezer, and then he just gets fucked because the body would have looked like it was killed and dumped 2 days before, but it hadn't thawed out when they fucking found it.
He didn't thaw it out far enough. When the coroner got in there doing an autopsy, there was some ice inside.
Yeah. So it would have, if he would have done it just right, if he would have fucked that one up, it would have looked like the body was dead for 2 days, even though it had been dead for 2 years.
Right. And that is how he got the name Iceman. And Mr. Softy is the one who basically taught him that, or they came up with together.
Suck it, Chuck Liddell. I love Chuck Liddell, but you're not as badass as this dude. I'm sorry.
No, nobody's as badass.
Maybe hand to hand, but even then, I feel. I kept wondering that. I was like, I wonder if, like, because he was a big ass dude. I was like, I wonder if he like could fight, like actually fight.
Yeah, because
he was just so big and so angry that
you and I have talked about this. The key to fighting, yes, you have to have skill. You have to be. It's great if you have a better.
Yeah, I guess you're gonna win every fight if you shoot them in the face before they have a chance.
If you have a better technique or more trained. But a lot of fighting is who gets off first.
Mm-hmm.
And most people have that little hesitation to not get off first. He did not have that.
Right. Like, he didn't have a hesitation to shoot you. He sure as fuck doesn't have one to punch you.
He's not going to sit there and talk to you. If you're in a verbal dispute, he's not.
That's what was so scary about the therapist interview, because I was like, there was a couple times, like you said, I was like, dude, like, and it was crazy because it's like, I don't think you know what you're doing, but like, it's a therapist. Like, I know you know what you're doing, and I know you know what could happen, and you're still doing it.
Now,
I was like, 2 things are going to happen. Either he's going to try to kill you, or he's going to walk out of this, and he might actually look you in the eye and shake your hands, because he'll probably have a fuckload more respect for you for having the balls to do what you did in that room.
Now, getting back to Mr. Frosty real quick, Mr. Frosty got killed.
Yeah.
And it is reported that the Iceman, Big Rich, killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that the reason he killed him was because Mr. Frosty, or Mr. Softy, I'm sorry, Mr. Softy wanted Richard to kill his wife and kids for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that broke his rule.
Yeah.
And he actually was, that was like
he stayed true to that one.
That was like his best friend mentor type situation. And he said, no, it's over now. You have to die. Which is
because if he wouldn't have done it, then he was going to have somebody else do it.
And we'll kind of get into how he got caught. We talked about the body in the barrel. That got him on the radar. The New Jersey Organized Crime Division and the ATF were looking into him. They set up a sting operation. I had an agent pose as a hitman, which does not make sense to me. Because listen to this.
It wasn't even like, I mean, it must have been good acting, but to me, it sounded like acting. But you heard the the recorded conversations.
Yeah, but the story,
he's like, "But fucking, how the fuck do you?" And I'm like, "All right, chill the fuck out."
But
any character from any fucking 80s mobster movie,
but it doesn't make sense. If the guy was pretending to be a hitman, a made man.
No, he was a hitman. His brother was a good fella,
right? Out of Traverse
downtown.
Yeah, downtown New York.
Because mind you, all this is just to give a little geography. This is like Kuklinski and all this shit is a Jersey thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Obviously, I guarantee it spilled over into New York. But he was from Jersey, so I would imagine a lot of this shit was going on around Jersey, surely in the tri-state area.
Right, and the Gambino family was out of New York. So
I wonder if he ever went over to Philly, because they started moving over into Philly then too, and then like Cleveland, Detroit.
Tell you a story. I might tell you off air.
Okay. I think I know what you're going to tell me. I think you've told me before.
I've had some contact. I know some people.
I think you've told me before.
But I know people.
Well, because everybody wants to be the mob's dead now. No, it's
No,
not.
the
You
mob's
fucking
just
idiots. They're just
there's no white.
they're
collar
just
crime.
making legal money now.
They were doing white collar crime, but
Now they are. Now they're making mostly legal money because they're like, all right, well, they're gonna arrest us for killing people, so let's not kill people anymore.
okay, this agent was posing as a hitman, wanted Iceman to do a hit for him, which does not make sense. That would be red flag number one for me.
He said, "Yeah, I want."
Wait a
What did he say? He was like, "I want to talk to you about a job," and he was like, blah, blah, blah. He said, "I'll talk to anybody if the money's right."
And and I
He
guess
said, "But how the fuck do you set it up?" He said, "Don't you use a piece of iron?" Which, if you don't watch documentaries or don't pay attention to stuff, he was saying that's a gun. He's
yeah.
asking if he uses a gun. He's like, "Why make it messy and loud, my friend?" He
Right.
kept calling him my friend.
Yeah. So
Because every time I'd hear that, I was like, so he's been about this like oddly carefully draw people in from the jump, because I guarantee that's all he was doing right there is like, let me make this guy trust me, because if this guy likes me and trusts me,
Right.
if he's ever gonna fuck me, I can fuck him way faster because he trusts me and thinks I'm stupid now.
And this was at the height of his paranoia. If I could speak, Jesus, that's why I need to drink more.
Quick question.
What?
There you go. Mafia versus cartel. Who wins? Cartel wins in the streets. Mafia wins in the long run.
Yes,
because the mafia buys everybody around them.
Cartel has numbers, to where
and they have money.
But mafia is, I don't want to say smarter, but they're more conniving. They're not as they're brutal, but I think
in a different way.
I think they're more. They'll outthink them.
They'll outlast them.
They'll play. They'll lay back and let the cartel. I mean, if it's straight up fight, head on fight.
Cartel's
a head on war. It's going to be a bloodbath because they just have the fucking numbers. And
yeah, the cartel's going to win at that point. But then the mafia's just going to fucking hunker down and be like, okay. They're just going to sit back and watch all these fucking cartel bosses get arrested on CNN and be like, there's one more.
They're going to out strategize them.
And then 2 years later, guess who's walking down the fucking beach in Miami?
Right. But where was I? Oh, apparently this agent gave him cyanide to do the deed. And apparently it wasn't cyanide, because I'm sure they can't do that. But I guess when he got the cyanide, he was walking, and apparently, obviously, he had some thoughts. He thought maybe something wasn't right, so he gave a little bit of the cyanide to a dog to see how long it would take to kill it. Nothing happened to the dog. That's when he knew it was a setup. He thought it was a setup.
Oh, because they said everybody said that everybody's pretty much convinced that he was also going to kill him.
Right.
Before if he hadn't got arrested when he did.
That was his MO. Even if it was cyanide and he was going to do the deed, he was in his
he might kill that person.
He was in the paranoia state to where he's going to tie up a loose end. He was going to do the job.
Well, that's kind of what got him caught anyway, because everybody started rolling over around the time that he got caught, and he was trying to take out anybody that could connect, that could take him down.
He was tying up a lot of loose ends.
Because at the end of the day, he did that because which was still shocking to me, the level to which this man was still dedicated to his family. That's why he started doing all that shit at the end, killing people so that nothing would happen to him and his family.
Right. And I want to get into that a little bit here after. But basically, they arrested him.
He wouldn't get out of his car.
And a big guy, it took 5 of them to get him out and handcuff him.
The cop the detective that arrested him said that he had to work as hard as he could to get one click out of the handcuffs around his wrist, and just could not put leg irons on him.
Yeah, so
he was too big. And
they had it all on tape. Even though he didn't
did you see when they got him to the precinct and they're taking him inside and they got him out, he's still wearing his fucking 80s shades and shit, and he's just got kind of a shitty smile on his face. He's like, this is unnecessary, it's uncalled for. These guys, they watch too many movies. And they just started pushing him inside away from the cameras.
He literally, like the doctor said, had no fear. He was not afraid of going to jail.
No, he wasn't afraid of jail. He wasn't afraid of death. He wasn't. Only thing he was afraid of was something happening to his family.
And
his family getting hurt in any way.
He said the only thing he regrets is the toll that this took on his family.
Yeah, because
His-
that's when
and
he
his
started crying in the interview.
Yeah.
Which, and when I say crying loosely, I
He got
never
misty.
saw a tear actually leave his eye.
He got a little misty.
Yes, but it looked like he was in physical pain when that was happening.
He regrets the fact that, and he says with the doctor, he lost everything.
Yeah.
At the end of
Everything that he actually cared about.
he lost.
Yeah.
The only thing left.
But that shit
is
blew me
death.
away. Like, he looked like he was actually hurt because his body was producing tears.
And to show his mindset,
He even said that. He said, "You saw the Iceman cry," and did his weird mouth thing again. I was like, "Oh, just leave. Just call it. Just call it a day. Leave."
But even during the trial, he'd walk in, and the undercover agent that basically got him busted was
When
sitting
they
there,
walked into court,
he was shooting the shit with him. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
yeah. There's a video of it on.
Yeah,
There's an actual video of him walking into the courtroom all shackled up, and he just turns and smiles at the guy that got him arrested. And according to the guy that got him arrested, he was off camera, and he was like, they were like, "How did you respond to that?" He was like, "I returned it, but the only difference between me and him is I'm going home and he's going to a different environment at this time." Because he said that, and I was like, that was like the shittiest like street smart cop reiteration of a prepared statement for the media I've ever heard.
Right.
I'm going home and he's going to a different environment at this time.
So that's how he got arrested. That's the story. Now here's where I have a strange, this is going to sound so fucking strange. Contract killers. At least they kill for a purpose.
I mean, they're mercenaries. Minus war. They're the mercenaries of the underworld.
It's like Dexter. Serial killer, but he only kills bad people. And let's be honest.
Everybody's heard my opinions on that too. Like, Dexter's a fucking psychopath too.
Right. But at least they have rules to where people like Bundy and Dahmer, the crazy serial killers, they just choose at random.
The difference between Dexter and a guy like Kuklinski, which, yes, I know Dexter is a fucking fictional character, but if Dexter was real, Dexter is more of a problem to the world potentially, as long as he's free, because he thinks that because he only does this to those people, he is better than them somehow.
I can't disagree with that. You're right.
Whereas Richard Kuklinski's like, no, I'm a fucking bad guy. You're a fucking bad guy. Let's go do bad guy shit and see who lives.
And let's be honest. Most mob hits, and this is the one thing about the mob.
They're not just out there whacking like innocent people. Because that's how you get heat. Like if wise guys are killing wise guys, yes, it's going to be in the newspaper, but there's not going to be a lot of shit. They're going to be like, who did it? Nobody from both sides. And the cops are just kind of going to let it go. But you go and fucking shoot up a house with 3 kids and a wife and like a grandma in it. The cops are going to be riding your fucking dick because now you're causing problems for yourselves and for the cops. You kill each other all you fucking want. That's usually how it was back in the day.
The same reason the old timers did not want to get into the drug trade.
Yeah.
Because it would cause too much fucking heat.
Yeah. Because that's pretty much how it was. Like, anybody that doesn't already know this, that's pretty much how it was in New Jersey and New York and even Cleveland with like some kind of the mafia, but the fucking Irish mob. And Chicago with the Polish and the mafia. There was a long period of time where it was like, dude, as long as you guys are only doing it to yourselves, as long as you don't throw it around too much, we'll just kind of mind our own business. We'll take our $200 in our fucking hand and we'll call it a day.
Now, where the mob would get a little is like racketeering,
that's what fucked them.
And even like protection money, forcing people to pay protect, and if you didn't pay, they roughed you up. They didn't kill you because they were smart. If they killed you, they weren't getting paid.
Yeah,
they wanted the monthly money.
Yeah,
so they'd rough you up. Yeah, they were dicks, and that's not good.
I mean, that's the way it goes when you get those organized crime families.
They just weren't killing people other than the people who in the mob or other mobs that were crossing them. Kind of thing. It kind of had a code. And this is what all of his, I would say most of his mob contracts. Listen, if you have a contract put on you by a mob, you know that you get into that world, you know there's a chance.
Yeah, a better chance than not.
Right. The odds are it's not going to end well. You could cross
Very few mafia related people die of old age at the ripe old age of 84.
I mean, or if you get involved in the mob in some way.
And if they do, they're in prison.
Just like if you take money from a loan shark, you know you don't pay that back, shit. Some bad shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's an old saying. You lay with pigs long enough, eventually you're going to start smelling like shit.
Mm-hmm.
You get in bed with the mob, whether it be as a Italian becoming maid or doing business with the mob, odds are shit can go sideways real fucking fast.
The shitty thing too is like I hate the people that are always like those social justice warriors. They're like when you talk about shit like this, they want to say something about what Italian Americans have a very rich history. Yeah, they do. All of us do. Every race and creed and religion and shit is like this.
Yeah.
We're not singling out Italian people. That's just what we're talking about right now. He was Polish. There's a Polish mob. There's an Irish mob.
There's a Russian mob.
Because we could do a whole episode on Whitey Bulger on the Irish mafia from Boston. Yeah, there's Irish. There's Chinese. In the same cities. Like you go to Manhattan back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, shit like that, and like you go to Chinatown, you got ghost shadows running around and fucking something dragons and shit. Like they were doing the same shit up until like the 2000s.
Oh, yeah, it's still going.
They were running extortion rackets on everybody in fucking Chinatown. That was their area, though. Like they just stuck to their area because the fucking Italians didn't even fuck with them.
And really, turf wars is what the big wars were over.
And that's why you never hear about the Chinese
because they stuck to their
shit. And to an extent, the Polish, because it was always the Irish and the Italians are always the ones that got all the attention because they had the manifest destiny thought process.
Now let's get to Tyler's thing real quick about Hoffa.
I found it because he told two stories about this kind of same story but slightly different.
I only heard the one story. Basically, he took credit for killing Hoffa.
Oh, see, that's not what I heard.
I heard he was. I heard he was there. He said I was there, but how he does, he plays it off.
Well, he told two similar but slightly different.
Well, the story I heard,
the one that I remember is he said he didn't do it, but it was I didn't do it. But this is what I heard.
Well,
which I probably means he did it. Really,
I heard one story. I heard that he basically killed him, put him in a barrel, lit him on fire for half an hour, welded it up, buried it
under the New York Giants stadium.
No, he did not do that. Got a little spooked, dug it up, put it in a junkyard in a car in a junkyard, had it crushed.
A Toyota. Specifically,
and it
had it crushed, and then had it crushed with other cars, and then had that block of metal sent overseas
to Japan.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story. That
Now it was one of those. I don't know. It's kind of like how he did things. I know, but I'm going to give you a lot of details to make you.
Well, I mean, it's just
but I don't think he did. I don't think he killed.
Well, it's just like Michael Francis gave a totally different account
to where he's wet,
and I think that's kind of how I think that's how all of them will always handle it. I think anybody that's ever been mob related in that time period, if you ask them about Hoffa, they will have one of a handful. They probably over the years have been like, all right, well, we'll just tell them this, or this, but we don't actually tell them because Jimmy Hoffa dying did not for that long of a period of time because Rudy Giuliani came along, not horribly long after Jimmy Hoffa died. If you think about like the 220 years that the mob was kind of a thing, but Jimmy Hoffa disappearing did a lot for a lot of mafia guys. It really, really put a lot of money in their pockets when he died.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think anybody mafia related will ever. We'll never know what happened to Jimmy Hoffa.
We know all we need to know. He's dead, and they'll never find the body.
Literally, the only time we'll know is when the last person that knows dies, and he just is like, "Fuck it." That's like the only way that I could see it ever happening, and even then, I'd say that's a fucking long shot.
And if I had to guess, either they killed him, put him in a barrel. He's at the bottom of the ocean.
I mean, shit. Another by the time this generation is making the next generation, chances are nobody's gonna actually fucking know anymore.
Right.
Because everybody's gonna be dead.
It's going to be hearsay,
It's been fucking almost 60 years since he's been killed anyway.
Well,
40 is 50. It's 2021 now.
Let me Google that. I think it was in the 80s. I think.
Was it?
I think so. Let me.
I don't know. The fact that it's 2021 always throws off my fucking
It was a late 70s
edition. It might have been the early 80s.
Let's see here.
But either way, anybody that was actually directly
No, I
involved.
don't want to contribute to you.
Oh, Wikipedia.
He disappeared. He disappeared 75.
So what? 56 years ago?
Fuck you.
46?
Yeah.
Yeah, 46. Okay.
I was born in 72.
Still,
I'm not
so
56.
that's 46 years ago. Anybody that was old enough to be involved with the mob at that point in
This is
time.
why I got confused. He wasn't declared dead until 82. He was missing since 75.
He's missing since 75. He's probably dead in 74. You just didn't fucking know he was gone.
Yeah. So, but
yeah, I don't think that's one of those mysteries. We'll find out who DB Cooper is before we find out where Jimmy Hoffa ended up.
That's true. I think Kuklinski is a fascinating. I think he's the perfect storm of serial killer and murderer.
If he was if this all happened 400, 500, 600 years earlier, he would have been a fucking king somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Lamont asked, what's scary? Scary serial killer or contract killer?
It depends. It depends on the situation.
I'm sorry.
Serial killer in day-to-day life, contract killer. I would rather sit if I was sitting like this, I would rather be a serial killer. If I was sitting like this, I would rather not. I would rather it not be a contract killer because this is his world. Where a serial killer is going to be like, as soon as you get in your car, I want to pop out and go, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And so there's a new Scream coming.
This is a hard one. I want to say the Iceman scares the fuck out of me just for the way he talks about it. The no emotion whatsoever. To where even Dahmer, and they even talk about that with the doctor, even Dahmer expressed he was visually, he was shaken, got sick by cutting up these bodies.
Yeah.
And
Kuklinski
did not.
The closest thing I heard from that was him talking about using a certain $25 expensive cologne because it just worked to cover up the smell of death in a room.
Right.
And then there's also, did you see the one? Fuck, who was it?
But
which one was it? He killed somebody, and this body laid under a fucking bed in a hotel for 5 days or something like that, or 10 days. And they said 20 people had been in and out of that room before they found it.
I heard 2 stories on this. Either it was under the bed, but then another report said it was between the mattress and the box spring. How is that?
How the fuck
is that possible? I've been in some shitty hotels in my day.
I would notice that
there would be a fucking mountain in the middle.
Yeah, I would notice that.
But I did hear that story for 5 days.
Yeah, they said something like 20 people went in and out of that room over the course of those days, and it took that long to fucking. How do you know? How shitty is your fucking motel that there's a rotting body under the bed for almost a week?
You want to knock boots bad enough, you put up with that smell.
Jesus, we'll leave the light on for you.
All right, but getting back, contract killer, I don't want to be scared of because unless I know I'm involved in some shady shit, then I'd be more scared. But even though just the mere, at least I know serial killers I'm not that afraid of because odds are they're fucking
pussies
and they're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah,
they're not all upstairs and they're going to make mistakes.
And there hasn't been very many serial killers that directly attack grown men first off, and when you can see it coming,
and they blunder shit.
Yeah,
to where Kuklinski or a contract killer,
he's a little different. He's just a straight killer.
He borders the line of serial. I'd call it, you're right, a killer. Now, I'm sure there's contract killers out there that don't go to the extremes that he went to.
Because the difference between him and a serial killer is serial killers get some type of gratification or perverse pleasure or something from murdering somebody. He doesn't fucking care. It doesn't affect him.
It turned out to be a way.
From the way he talks, his fucking blood pressure doesn't even go up when he kills somebody. It's just like oh, I dropped my fucking cigarette. Let me pick it up and smoke.
It's a business transaction.
Yeah. And not even the ones that are business transactions. Just like killing and hurting people just doesn't fucking do anything.
But I will say this about contract killers: at least they have some morals. They have some standard. They have a rule.
Yeah,
they have some.
Well,
rules.
they say there's no honor amongst thieves. There really is. Like when you get to a certain point of, because this is gonna sound fucking weird to some people too, especially like hardcore NRA fucking fake news people, which believe and follow whatever you want. I really don't care. Just don't argue about it. I'm sick of hearing it. But there is, in a way, levels to the world of crime.
Yeah.
Like you've got your fucking kids that are running up and grabbing old ladies' bags and purses and stealing Amazon packages, all the way up to really guys like this. But once you reach a certain level, there is, I mean, even the Mexican mafia, that's a prison gang.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, I've read a story directly from somebody that was a shot caller, and that's a great book. You can borrow it if you want, if you like stuff like that. It's fucking fantastic. He talks about, like, they sent these two guys to take this dude out. And I don't even think the dude was there, or they got him on their way out. They killed the whole fucking family, including like a 6-month-old baby. Those dudes did not make it long. They were like, no, that goes against even our code of ethics. Right. Somebody else go and handle these fucking assholes. Like, there are certain things that are off limit. They're like a certain echelon of criminal will not do certain things. They won't kill women. They won't kill children. They won't kill the elderly unless they're, I think from everything I've heard, children are always off the table.
Right.
But they will cross the line of women and elderly if they're like, no, she's fucking tattling.
Right.
Like, because then you got it.
Now, there is no doubt the Iceman was a psychopath.
Yeah.
He was a killer, a bad guy.
He had a plethora of mental disorders.
But he was a devoted father to his kids.
To the point, and a great husband.
Was not.
I was
not a great husband. There was some domestic abuse going on there.
Okay, for a guy that killed 200 people, he was pretty all right as a spouse. She got off light. Yeah, she lived.
She got off light, but it sounded.
And I don't remember her. Like I remember she talked on one of them, and she didn't seem like horrifically like scarred or pissed off about their interactions. And yes, he was not ideal, and he did do some bad shit to his wife.
Yeah,
but she didn't speak about him like he was just a complete monster, which is what you would expect.
And she's not unscathed. She does not go unscathed in this story.
No,
he died, like we said, in 2006. He got sick with Kawasaki disease.
Oh yeah, I was looking that up.
Now he told the doctors when he went into the hospital, he wanted to be, if he goes, he wants to be resuscitated.
Really?
Yes. Apparently, he had a do not resuscitate from his marriage. And I guess when he was getting bad there that week of, they realized he had a do not resuscitate, and they called the ex-wife, I'm assuming ex-wife at this point, to say, hey, this is what he requests. We need you to change this. And she said no. And she told them not to resuscitate him.
I'm listening.
When he goes. Huh. And that is what happened. She let him die.
Huh.
Now, I don't blame her. I mean, I guess, but you don't come out completely squeaky clean. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I do find it odd that his only happiness, it seemed to be, was those 3 kids.
Interesting.
That is what made him happy.
So, yeah.
So he was a
really good dad, if nothing else.
Was not a 100% monster.
Because he did, like I said, he told a story about how he murdered somebody and then he went home and put toys together for Christmas for his kids.
Right. I
And
mean,
watched the news about the guy that he murdered.
And I think that is the big difference between contract killer and serial killer.
Mhm.
They can lead that double life. I don't think a serial killer can, even though I can't say that either. You know, BTK had a normal life.
He was a fucking weird one. That stupid idiot.
But
That's still okay. He got caught. He sent a fucking floppy disk to the cops.
well, he's an idiot.
And I think he might have actually said, like, you guys can't trace this, can you? And they're like, no, not at all.
I mean, let's be honest. The only smart serial killer ever was probably the Kodiak killer, or Zodiac killer. They still,
yeah, because he was dead before they fucking identified him.
What they just now cracked the cipher, didn't they? What,
Yeah.
60, 50 years
Yeah, he's
later?
already dead.
Yeah, he's been dead for years.
Yeah. Okay, so
what is
Kawasaki disease,
carbon
also
monoxide?
called, I'm going to try this,
Carbon dioxide?
mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome, a condition that causes inflammation in the walls of some blood vessels in the body. It's most common in infants and young children. It is very rare. There's less than 20,000 US per cases per year. It does need emergency care. And it says early stages include a rash and fever. Symptoms include high fever and peeling skin. In late stages, there may be inflammation of medium-sized blood vessels. It also affects lymph nodes, skin, and mucous membranes. But where was the next part I saw? This is where it becomes in hand, where it gets bad is it causes blood vessels to become inflamed and swollen, which can lead to complications in the blood vessels that supply blood to the heart. So without treatment, 1 in 4 children with Kawasaki disease get heart complications. So you take a 70-year-old man, hit him with something he probably shouldn't have because he's 70 years old. He probably got a bad heart anyway because he's 70.
Right.
He didn't look to be in the best shape. He looked like he enjoyed his pierogies and sausages.
Yeah, well, it's 300 pounds.
And he's Polish.
And Polish.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up Iceman.
That was yet another, just like one big opinion piece with a handful of facts sprinkled in there.
Like we said, you could not piece this together. There's so many different stories.
It's such a crazy, it's like,
and I'll be honest,
like it's one of the few people that like probably actually killed a couple hundred people in modern time that we know of.
Maybe, but then again, could he be acting? Could he?
Yes, like that was the whole time. I was like, dude, this could all just be bullshit because he's literally talking about killing 200 people, and they only have enough evidence in any form to get him on 5.
Like some of the stories of him killing the 50 homeless people to perfect his craft, or the one
there's no paperwork or evidence behind that.
Or you hear the story about him killing those 3 guys in Georgia for
with the 357, just
fucking with them on the road at road rage.
And he just blasted them, reloaded, and blasted again.
Could he just read? I think they showed articles from that in the documentary.
I remember him saying he was like he said their eyesight must not have been very good because most people wouldn't walk up to a man with the 357 Magnum on his side, but they did.
I mean, it could be he just killed maybe 20 people.
He could have killed the 5 that he went down for. Like, we don't know.
Or he could have killed 2,000. I don't fucking know.
Right.
He could be embellishing.
He could have like Elizabeth Bathory numbers for all we know. We don't fucking know. He could be Vlad the Impaler.
Is she
bloodbaths?
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think we covered. But it was you can't get too in depth with fact. Because
there's not that much.
It's muddled. And
because like from what I understand, they didn't even need that much shit in court because shortly after the court case started, they have him on video saying, I shot so and so on this date this many times. I shot so and so.
Look who it is
on this date this many times.
Look who showed up to the party.
It was a little late now.
Gonzo.
But yeah, like
we missed you.
Yeah, like they in the documentary, they go from him being arrested to him walking in there to him smiling at the undercover, and then immediately to him admitting to killing 2 people.
Yeah.
So like there really wasn't that much of a court case for this. Like he was just like, fuck it, lock me up. Stop making in my mind, I think the only nice part about that, I think part of the reason he did it the way he did is because he didn't want his kids to be dragged into court to watch that.
it was a laydown for the prosecution.
Yeah. This is the easiest case that prosecutors probably ever had against anybody mafia related.
I would say this. Prosecutors aren't very smart. I mean, if OJ can get off, anybody can get off. Obviously, the New York prosecutors are a little bit better than the West Coast. But it was pretty open and shut. All right.
He said better late than never.
Yeah, that's what
I said on the Instagram post. I still can't believe we actually got to like double-digit likes before we started this show. I only posted that bitch like an hour before I got here.
I know.
I threw it together while I was in bed listening to a documentary because I was like, fuck it. I don't have time to write out sufficient notes, so I might as well just sit here and just.
Well, I think this is kind of this is a good episode for us because when we just have
and I had watched these documentaries.
Fact. It's
the first time I watched one of these, I think my dad was still alive, so that was 10 years ago.
So what have we learned? We learned Phil should have been a serial killer.
We learned
Travis likes butt stuff.
I'm going to become the Lord of Demonology.
Yes. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody that showed up to the live stream and everybody that has listened to us on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, all that happy shit. If you're watching and you're not subscribed to the pod or the YouTube stream, what the fuck are you waiting on?
Hit the subscribe sacks button. Of fucking donkey cocks.
Thanks to Tyler, Lamont, and everybody, Jenny, and everybody else who showed up, and Gonzo there at the end. We greatly appreciate your support. All the Patreon supporters like Rob, who is going to give us a.
Yeah, this is usually we have a little more organization to our fucking social media shit, but we don't have the goddamn screen prompts.
Right.
Because OBS is a dirty fucking slut.
Which it was working literally 10 minutes before you got here. I sent you a text. It's working. We're going to try it. I should have just.
I walked in and he's just.
Motherfucker. But thanks to everybody who supports us on Patreon, like Rob, who will be giving us a topic idea to cover on an episode.
That's what I hear through the grapevine.
We appreciate everybody that supports us and gets all that bonus material. Go to patreon.com/GITM podcast to get that. Follow us in all the socials there in the description. I will not.
You just have to put our name in the search box. We pop up.
Yeah, but if you look down the description of this or of this live stream or the video or the podcast episode, all the socials are in there. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next Tuesday. Maybe. How are we looking for Mondays or Sundays?
I'm still waiting to see how the schedule is.
Definitely next Tuesday. We'll see you next Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
Free Richard Kuklinski, even though he died 15 years ago.
All right, we're out. Take care, fuckers.